My next step would be to create a 2-year plan, which we've kind of already done. That feels very safe to do. And then also think about how I can leverage that 5K to set a foundation.
Welcome to the Money Skills for Therapists podcast, where we answer this question: how can therapists and health practitioners go from money shame and confusion to feeling calm and confident about their finances and get money really working for them in both their private practice and their lives? I'm your host, Linzy Bonham, therapist turned money coach and creator of the course Money Skills for Therapists. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we have a coaching episode with a recent Money Skills for Therapists grad. Jenet Dove is an LPC who supports overfunctioning perfectionists with managing burnout and depression. And today, we get into a topic that, as we talk about a bit in the episode, we also dug into a bit during her time in Money Skills for Therapists, which is her relationship to debt and managing debt. We dig into perfectionism today, perfectionism around debt, and talk about Jenet's aggressive debt repayment strategy that she's using and kind of the costs for that. We explore some alternatives to that and explore her successfully saving in the business, like having a business financial system that is actually really working, but having some financial struggles or seeing debt grow at home and what to do about that. This is a very actionable podcast. By the end, we really get into some very specific next steps for Jenet to make changes to her system and the way that she's managing her money to alleviate this stress about debt. Here is my conversation with Jenet Dove. So, Jenet, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. I was excited when I saw your name on our list of folks who had asked to come on the podcast, because as I was just saying to you off mic, it's exciting for me to get to talk with grads because I want to know what's happened since I saw you last a few months ago. So yeah, we were saying that you probably finished up the course about 3 months ago.
Yeah, I would say maybe around October, November of last year. Yeah, tail end of last year.
Okay, so it's been like a quarter at this time of recording. So what do you want to focus on our time together today?
I think overall, just the kind of the bigger picture with confidence and finances, specifically having grace for not knowing what we don't know, but then holding ourselves accountable for what we do know. Like once you know, you have to do better. And I think that that piece can be very challenging to balance as well.
Yes. Okay. So tell me what things are looking like then. Like what is coming up around this tension between the grace and holding yourself to what you know? Where's the pain?
Yeah, I took the course and I'm feeling were a lot of big insights from that course for me in terms of not only just managing the money, but also in terms of, some foundational pieces like you and your business are two separate entities. And while my practice might be generating 6 figures, it doesn't mean I'm paying myself 6 figures, and keeping those two things very separate. But even within that, the budgeting piece and the cash flow management, all of that, that's a lot for practice owners, especially given that that's really not our forte, And so the grace is knowing that mistakes are going to happen. And I'm sure there's some type of timeline for, finally getting to where you want to be in terms of being able to manage your finances, but also being responsible and accountable for, like I said, when you do know better, you do really have to start being intentional and doing better. And that's a lot of effort.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like what you're talking about is almost like a bigger philosophical tension that we all kind of grapple with in life, which is when are you kind to yourself? When do you give yourself a break? When do you push yourself or hold yourself to a boundary that you've set? So zooming in, tell me right now, what are things looking like in your financial management?
Yeah. So I'm kind of at a place now where I'm kind of expanding my team with this. And so I'm very big about not necessarily practicing within my scope because that's my practice, but focusing on what's passionate for me And that really is just the work within my clients and, disseminating information and outside of my practice in any ways that I can as well. But the financial piece is one of those things that I've realized now that I kind of have a better grasp on what it actually is going to take to manage it and get to where I want to go with it. I'm outsourcing. I'm hiring an accountant
Okay.
to just really help me kind of manage my cash flow and really help me get on top of that outside of what I've been able to do with You Need a Budget and
Mm-hmm.
the software and
Mm-hmm.
obviously the skills that I learned within your course.
Yeah.
I just think that it's going to take some more initiative and steps. And
Yeah.
what that is acknowledging
Yeah.
that I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. And that's okay. That's part of like where I
Yeah.
give myself grace.
Yes.
Because if I keep going through it
Mm.
as if I'm on my own, as I am doing now, I think that's where I struggle with the grace and the, accountability. It's like I'm trying to hold myself accountable for something that I'm just having so much difficulty with. That's where the realization of, okay, I need more help with this.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think there's a couple pieces that stick out to me here right away. One is you're saying that you're expanding your team. So are you bringing on other clinicians? Tell me what that looks like when you say expanding
Oh,
your
no, no, no,
team.
no, no. Absolutely
Okay.
not. What I meant by expanding my team is like on the back end.
Gotcha. Your supports. You're expanding your
Yes.
supports. Gotcha.
Yes,
Beautiful. Okay,
absolutely.
great. Great. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good clarifying because I was like, is your business getting a bunch more complicated? No, you're expanding your team around you, which I love.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Exactly.
So then the second piece, I think of this question of, you're talking about giving yourself grace about needing support.
Hearing that reflected back to me, I can kind of see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you mentioned grace at the beginning, this is a total assumption. I assumed that it was like maybe you had forgotten to do some things or like having to forgive yourself for making a mistake in your
Yes.
practice or those kinds of things, which also is an area that we all need grace.
Absolutely.
But what you brought up right away is that like you're giving yourself grace that you're hiring an accountant and getting more support to help you solidify your skills.
Yeah, because I think there's just, I'm a self proclaimed recovering perfectionist. So
Yes.
we really struggle with, we're just supposed to know how to
Right.
do things
Yes.
and do them right and perfectly. And
Yes.
being able to look in the mirror and say out loud, no, this is not my forte.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I tried very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And, I need more help.
Yes. Right. And perfectionism is also where your clinical focus is, right? Like recovering perfectionist. Do I remember that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, not surprisingly, you're very insightful about, this part of yourself because that is what I'm hearing is part of it is coming to terms with the fact that you can't do something all by yourself.
Correct. Absolutely.
And I'm curious, Jeanette, like what is the story that comes up when you have to confront not being able to just handle something all by yourself?
Oh God. Lindsay, is this supposed to be a tearful session? Because I already feel it coming up.
Tears are
Uh,
welcome. Tears are welcome. I mean, this is where it is though,
I-
right? Like this is the stuff that
yeah,
is
it is.
feeding into
It's
this.
it's so because
Yeah.
absolutely. So what comes up is, well, you took on more than you can handle,
Okay.
and yeah, you don't know what you're doing, and this is why you shouldn't
Okay.
have. You know, this is what you get for trying to branch out and start your own practice and do all these great things for yourself, and look, now you can't handle your finances.
Right. Right. So what does this prove for according to this voice, this critical
Mhm.
voice? Like what does this prove or show you? Is this about not being worthy, not being safe, not being good enough? Like what is this telling you?
This is more so, this is why you should stay small.
Okay. This is a story I know well. Yes. Okay. This is why you should stay small because you can't handle all the complexity of being bigger and wanting more. So
Yes.
this is reinforcing for a part of you
Yes.
that small, you got to stay small.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I have a question for you and for that part of you maybe. Just to do, flip it on somebody else. I have a team that supports me of I don't know, maybe like 6 people that do all sorts of things that are not my zone of genius, like my marketing, my tech. I don't know how my tech works, right? Like managing my email inbox, all of these kinds of things. Does that mean that I'm not equipped to run a business?
I would say no, probably that you're more equipped because you're able to assess your strengths and weaknesses and then outsource and fill in those gaps as needed.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, this is not the most, revelatory intervention, but doesn't that just say the same thing about you?
Yeah, but it's always harder to apply it to things don't
I know.
apply to ourselves that way.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
We're the exception. We have to do it perfectly and alone,
Yeah.
even if other people get help,
Yeah.
right? Because part of what I'm hearing too is like, well, first of all, I always want you to have an accountant. Always, right? We all need accountants. I have an accountant. There's no way I could possibly know a tenth of what my accountant knows about tax codes and things that frankly I don't want to know about. So that's really important. I'm really glad you're bringing on that team member. Something else, Jeanette, that we talk about in the course, but I want to emphasize and dig into here is like you can outsource like tasks. You can't outsource the leadership and the big picture decisions, right? I wonder how it would sit with you if you think that you're outsourcing the tasks to this accountant. I'm not sure exactly what your relationship with them is going to be, but you're outsourcing the tasks. You're helping them share their expertise with you so that you can be more grounded as, a financial leader, making the big picture decisions for your business. How does that kind of framing sit with you?
I think that feels very settling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because part of the, Money Skills for Therapists has evolved over time. And I think when it first started, because I was a small business, because I started this, course in 2018, I was teaching people to be their own bookkeeper because I was like, we're little, we don't make a lot of money. Why would you pay a bookkeeper? You could do it yourself. Something that has evolved and changed as the course has grown over time and as my business has grown is now my goal for students is that you have the financial literacy and the groundedness and that like big picture to understand like these are my goals, this is what I want my paycheck to look like. But if bookkeeping is causing you almost any friction at all, I want you to outsource it as soon as you feel like you've got your feet under you in terms of that financial grounding. And I'm curious for you, how is the bigger picture stuff feeling at this moment of your ability to like think about what you want for your life? I know you're paying down some debt when we work together. Tell me about those pieces of money right now. What's happening there? Like, do you see yourself being able to hold that big picture stuff more and just see this as like outsourcing a task? Is that a framing that is possible for you?
I think because, part of it is, how do I want to say this? If something is not working the way it is now, you obviously need
Mhm.
to be doing
Yes.
something differently, right?
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
think that's kind of my mindset of, okay, this is me doing something differently
Mhm.
in hopes of getting a better outcome. And
Mhm.
so I would say yes. I think what your course helped me do is, there was a lot of big insights within that work, but also it did give me the tools to try to manage my cash flow on my own.
Mhm.
And through that, I realized I can't manage my cash flow on my own. I need someone else. And
Mhm.
so that block is still kind of there in terms of
Mm.
like not quite being where I want to be with that
Yeah.
piece. I think
Yes.
what gives me hope is that, my practice generates 6+ figures. So I know the money is there. Right.
Mhm.
And so that part is not, I think it would be even more daunting if the money wasn't there. But because it is,
Yes.
it's like, this feels manageable, but there's something I'm missing that I'm not able to see,
Yeah.
and someone else needs to come in and look at this and kind of shed
Mhm.
some light
Yeah.
onto what that piece is. And I'm very hopeful that that's what this accountant is going to be able to do for me. Just
Mhm. Mhm.
it feels like the puzzle piece is almost like clicking,
Yes.
but it's not
Yes.
quite there yet.
It's just like slightly off kilter. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So tell me what does feel like it's not working in your cash management?
So I currently have an escort set up,
Yes.
and that was something that was, provided as a strategy for me for, tax purposes and
Yep.
cash flow management as well. to an
Yep.
extent. And so what that S corp setup has allowed is the creation of like a very tight budget that this is your set paycheck that you receive from the S
Yes.
corp, and that is it. So
Yes.
it's like
Right.
a very tight budget for that piece. And so it
Yeah.
has allowed me to see, okay, I can live on a lot less than I thought that I once originally needed. And also, and this is actually through your course as well, just being more mindful of spending habits and just kind of tightening that up as well. So doing the things that are within your control. I think where my frustration comes in is that,
Yeah.
okay, I'm doing these things, yet something just feels like it's not quite gelling. I know
Mm-hmm.
life is going to keep lifing in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like
Yes.
I just had to pay, almost $2,000 yesterday for my car. We
Yes.
talked about this in the
Yep.
course, the AC went
Yep.
out and then this happened and that happened. And so,
Yep.
life will life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of those things also kind of contribute to this. I'm not prepared. Like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
ready. There's never going to be a moment in life where I do not have debt. And I know I've unpacked a lot about my relationship with debt in the course. And
Mm-hmm.
it's still frustrating for me. It's still frustrating for me
Yeah.
that it's there. It's just there. And I know some of the things that have been helpful in your course is that debt provides us a way to, take care of things that we need to take care of. My debt has always been manageable. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's not stopping. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's the
Yes.
cash flow piece
Yes.
that's frustrating for me. It's like, when is it? I mean, it may not ever get down to zero, especially, as a small business, you do need to, invest in yourself. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But what is that manageable number?
Yeah.
What does that look like? That is kind of the piece where I'm looking for a little bit more expertise and like
Mm-hmm.
more
Yep.
strategy around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will tell you that that is more of a personal finance question. Just as you're thinking about who's going to help you kind of crack the code on this, an accountant will be helpful in helping you look at like your systems in your business and your obligations, and they might be able to make some suggestions there. But part of what I'm hearing is like you're not paying down your debt at the rate you want to be, and it's feeling hopeless. It feels like it's always going to be there.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And
also life happening. How do you balance that?
yes, yes, for sure. Because with that, Jeanette, like something that makes me think of is building that buffer at home. Because as you said, life happens. You said lifes, right? Like there's so many ways to say this. Like, we can only like expect the unexpected. Like I had a January like this where my car had $3,000 of unexpected repairs needed. I found out that summer camps, you pay for them in January. I didn't know that. So suddenly we had to register my son in like a few $1,000 summer camps. I was like, God, January. That was terrible. Next year, I'll know that, summer camps happen in January, but this year I just didn't. Right. So it was just like that suddenly this big pile of expenses just to manage life. And what I'm curious about is in your personal finances, what are you doing right now to anticipate that?
Nothing.
Okay. Okay.
Other than like the tightening of the budget, like
Yes.
that has been the biggest thing I've been able to do. And I think that's where a little bit more strategy is going to be helpful is everything. And this is something I still haven't worked on from your course, but everything that comes in that's extra goes to the debt. I don't put it in savings. I'm not creating a buffer. It just goes
Yes.
to the
Yes.
debt.
Yes.
And
Okay. Okay.
so,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Because we talked about this in the course. Like it's kind of like this thing where you put so much on the debt because you're just trying to get the debt down as much as possible. But then there's no buffer. So then if your fridge breaks, your car breaks, it has to go back on the debt. So you're watching like the debt shrink, grow
yes,
more.
yes.
Yeah. And tell me, like, for you emotionally, what happens when you have to put more money on the debt again?
My response to it is it's a lot better than it was. So I
Okay.
think your course for sure has really helped me with my emotional response to stress, money
Yeah.
stressors.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
nothing ever feels like a crisis anymore.
Mhm.
So that has been very, like, my nervous system might go into flight for a minute, but then I'm able
Yeah.
to like get it regulated pretty
Yes.
quickly.
Okay. Okay. Good. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that emotionally it's not feeling so
Yeah.
intense
Yeah.
anymore.
It's more
Yeah.
so practical now when I have to do it. It's
Okay.
like,
Okay.
this has to get done. Like you know, your car's not starting. What are you going to do? It just has to get done.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
right, you know.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So with that then like what I'm hearing is it's kind of like you're still just living life normally,
Mhm.
right? I don't think you're necessarily spending more because you're putting a lot of money on the debt, but it just does mean that when those unexpected things come up, the credit card is
Yeah,
the tool or that you have to pay it down because there isn't this cash buffer,
right.
right? I don't know if the issue is that you're paying it off too aggressively and then needing it. I think that it sounds to me like that causes the emotional duress, which used to be much worse. Now it's just kind of like, okay, I got to use the credit card again because I need my car to start. So, but it doesn't sound to me like it's actually costing you more financially, right? It's not kind of like when people go into the restrict and purge with money, where by restricting you actually end up spending more because you're denying yourself. To me, it just sounds like where the money is you're putting it on the credit card and you're putting money on the credit card more and you're taking money off the credit card more. You're just using the credit card more.
Yeah,
But what I'm hearing overall is this debt is not going away as fast as you want it to, which is more a question of having extra money that you're not going to need, right? Like that extra money in your household budget that isn't going to be called on to to take care of your life.
yeah. I think what's coming up for me is, I still use the profit first structure, but as I'm talking this through, I realize that my profit line, anything that comes up in that, whatever that number is, it goes
Yeah.
to my debt. I'm not putting it away for profit. And so
Yes.
I think part of this might be talking it through. Part of this might be a man-made problem. Might be,
Okay.
very self-inflicted. But it's also, I kind of hear one of my clients' voice now. It's like, so what am I supposed to do? I'm just supposed to, stay in debt forever. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
what?
Yeah. And the answer is no, definitely not.
Right.
Right. What it makes me wonder is where's the actual problem and where's the actual spot where an intervention can happen to make the solution, right? Because I know that your practice, you said like you have a six-figure practice, which is awesome. You're also, if I remember, like a solo earner,
Yes.
right? And you have a
The
child.
child. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to say, as a starting place, that makes life harder.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but it's like there isn't that second income to like share the groceries. It's like it's all on you. So are you still using your profit first calculator?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so the S corp pays me 2 times a month, and then everything that is
Okay.
remaining in my from that month from my business gets put into the profit first calculator and then distributed accordingly.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you're getting those distributions after your set paycheck,
Yes.
then everything else gets divided. Okay.
Yes.
Great. That set paycheck that you're getting
Mhm.
home, how
Mhm.
much is that per month?
Yeah. So I'm only paying myself 2,600 2 times a month.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And are you taking extra money out of the business then, like that profit money that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Do you
And
take that
so
out?
there's
Yes.
taxes that are on the 2,600, and
Hmm.
then I put away for taxes for the profit as well.
Hmm.
So taxes
Okay.
is another line item.
Yes.
Even though my accountant
Yes.
pulls taxes for the 2,600, I have a line item for
Yeah.
taxes for the profit.
Yes. Which is great. And how much is that profit money that you get to take out?
Oh God. So let's say about there's an extra $5,000 after payroll,
Okay.
right, remaining in the business for the month, and so that will come out to about 1,250 in profit.
So what I'm added
Mhm.
up is 5,200, like two $2,600
Yes.
paychecks
Yes.
plus an extra 1,250
Yes.
is 6,450. And I'm curious, like, how much is your basic cost of living, like for rent or mortgage,
Yeah, I
car,
would say
food?
the 50. Okay, the 52 pretty much covers my cost of living, including my daughter, grocery,
Okay.
mortgage, etc.
Okay. It's like
And
your base living.
yeah,
Okay. And then the 1,250
the 1,250 is typically going to debt.
debt, right? That goes onto your debt.
Hmm.
But then something else comes up and then you end up taking out
Hmm.
of the debt to pay for the something else. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, with this, two things that I'm thinking about. One is with money as it is,
Hmm.
how can you look at putting more towards the debt right? And keeping that money on the debt, right? Like basically reducing your living expenses so that, your life is costing you a lot less than 6450. Because what I'm hearing is that the 5200 covers like your normal living, but of course there's these annual expenses that come up, these one-time expenses, the emergency expenses,
Yeah.
right? And so that would be one angle on this, Jenet, right? Is like, how do you bring down your living expenses more so that the 6450 is like more than enough, and even if your car breaks, you can still pay for that and leave money, like the pay down on the debt is still going steadily. That's one thing. Do you see spot for wiggle in your personal living expenses?
I'm not going to say no, because
Okay.
when I started your course, I felt the same way. Like there's no room for wiggle,
Yes.
and then somehow
Yes.
I'm living off of
Yes.
$5,200.
Yes.
And so
5200. Yes.
yeah,
Yes. You've
so
wiggled
I
before.
will never say never. I'm pretty sure it's
Mhm.
possible. I just don't know what that looks like.
Okay. Okay. So there's a
Yeah,
maybe there. There's some
yeah.
possibility, some curiosity. Maybe there's a few things that you could eliminate,
Mm,
because something we talked about in the course is like this kind of slow and steady with
mm,
debt, right? Of
mm.
like, how do you set a slow, steady pace with a goal, which is like starting to look at, my debt is $8,000. I want to pay it down in 2 years. I'm going to slowly pay it down and see.
Okay, see, I'm glad you said that, because when I hear paying down $8,000 in we're taking 2 years to do that.
Yeah, maybe. No, tell me. What was that? What just came up?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, I'm curious about that. Like, where do we get the 2 years number from? And
Mhm,
I think that is the problem where I have probably just such a poor relationship with debt, that even though I can acknowledge that it gets us to a place to be able to do certain things temporarily within our lives that we weren't able to,
mhm, mhm,
it's still feel like you need to pay. You shouldn't have it, you know, like
mm,
it shouldn't be
mhm.
there. And so when I hear like
Yeah.
a 2 year goal, honestly, when I hear the two
Mhm.
year goal, I'm like, okay, that's relief. That's the relief I needed to hear. But I'm
Yeah.
also, there's
Yeah.
that part of me that's like, two
Yeah.
years, Lindsay.
Part of you is like, "What
No,
the hell?"
there's 8 months left in this year. We need to use those 8 months to pay off the
You're like,
rest
"We
of it.
gotta, like,
Yeah,
get her done." Because like, and part of where I'm suggesting this, Jeanette, is the get her done strategy is not working for you.
it's not. It's not.
It's not. For some people, it works. I have known people before who like can be very self-sacrificing, eat very simply, not buy any new clothes, buy like wear stretched out old clothes, because they don't care, because they'd rather pay down debt and have money in the bank. What I'm hearing is for you, it doesn't seem to be giving you the results that you want. So let's talk actual numbers. How much debt are you paying down?
Okay, I just pulled that up. It has increased. We've
Yeah.
had some big expenses with my car recently, I just mentioned. So
Yeah.
when I was with your program, it was only like,
Hmm.
6K, no big
Hmm.
deal. And now it's at 9K,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay.
Like 9.8 is where we are.
Okay. 9.8. So 9,800.
Hmm.
Okay. So almost 10K if we're going to
Hmm.
be rounding.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. 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 So your debt is growing with this strategy.
Hmm.
Yeah. And what emotions go with that for you?
Laughter.
Yes. Yes. Not an emotion, probably more of like a coping, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Because it's,
Okay.
I think you said it, like it's not working for you.
It's
That
not
you
working.
want it to work for you. And,
Yeah.
I've sacrificed what I believe I can sacrifice to make it work for
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
And it's growing, like you said. It's
Yes.
growing, you know.
No, it's going the wrong way.
Yeah.
With this in mind, then, I think there is going to have to be a two-pronged solution here.
Mm-hmm.
One is slow and steady. What if we just give your nervous system a break?
Mm-hmm.
What if your goal is to pay the debt down in 2 years? And to look at that, you can look at a credit card repayment calculator online. In fact, let's look at one together right now, because I think it'd be good for us to have actual numbers here. Okay, so here's one from Experian. I want to find one that lets you set an amount of time and tells us how quickly you can pay it down. Okay, so your debt is 9,800, and I'm going to share my screen with you
I
here.
was looking to see what my interest rate is on this card.
Yeah, that's great.
I know that has to be a factor in it as well.
Okay, so I put in your credit card balance here of 9,800. Yeah, what's your interest rate?
Here it is. Okay. 22.
22? Okay. So if we
22.24.
22.4?
22.2. Yeah.
Okay. So pay it off with a certain time frame. It automatically put 2 years. Just saying, the calculator likes that number. So if we put this in, we're just going to be curious, Jeanette, of what's going to come up.
Mm,
We're going to calculate, and it's saying you'd have to pay
okay.
$510 a month. How does that number land with you?
I mean, that's beyond manageable.
Okay. Beyond
Yeah.
manageable is a good thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So beyond manageable. And what do you notice it feels to make a plan that is beyond manageable?
I'm more curious now as to, I think I'm a little frustrated now because it's like,
Yeah.
why have I been so resistant to that?
Okay. So we're going to pull it apart a little bit. We're going to say part of you is frustrated with the part of you that has been like resistant, wanting to pay it down faster. The part that wants to pay it down faster, why? Why does that part want it paid down as fast as possible?
I think it's more so about my messaging around debt. Even though I feel like it's not as emotionally charged as it used to be, I think it's just more so, I don't know where it's at right now. It's in a confused
Mm-hmm.
spot right now. It's like very
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
gray right now. I can't find the
Gray.
words to really articulate what my
Yes.
relationship with debt is right now.
Yeah. Maybe it's in transition. Maybe it's settling into something different and you don't know what that is yet. Because part of what it makes me wonder about is like you're a recovering
Right.
perfectionist. You like progress, right? Like we like to see shit
Yes.
getting done. It makes me wonder
Yeah.
what if you put no more money on this particular card and you just pay down this like $520 a month. So you see it shrinking and you keep the rest of the money in your personal bank account. And then you see what happens in terms of your personal expenses. Does that money give you enough to like pay for the car repairs, like actually start to have an emergency fund at home where it's like every month you're also setting aside $400 for emergencies, $500 for emergencies. So 3 months later or 4 months later, when that $1,500 car repair comes up, you're like, I got that. If we just separate these things out so that the debt is only going down, you get to see yourself make progress and you get to start to develop this money management system at home that anticipates that lives. How does that sit with you?
The frustration is very prominent right now, Lindsay. I'm not
Yeah.
even gonna lie. Like that's just
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Don't lie.
frustrated. I'm very
Yep.
frustrated right
Okay.
now.
Tell me about the frustration.
I think it's, I don't know. I'm upset with myself. This is one of those things where it's like, okay, Jeanette, you should have known. You should have done better. It's like, why was I so resist? Maybe I'm frustrated that you know, my like aggressive strategy didn't work, isn't working. It didn't work,
Yeah.
you know?
That sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. It's like we want to know that when we make sacrifices,
Yeah.
that when we make life hard,
Yeah.
we're going to get something back for it.
Right.
And it didn't work. So I'm hearing like frustration at the strategy. Is there more frustration at yourself too?
I think it's more frustrating because I've heard you say this. This is not my first time hearing you say
No.
slow and steady,
No.
you know? And so it's like
Yeah.
also frustration for like not listening. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So there's some of that
Yeah.
coming up
Yeah.
and then also frustration because like, is it really that easy?
Mhm.
You know, because
Mm.
right now it's
Right.
been feeling so hard.
Right.
And then when I see it this way, it's
Yeah.
like, yes, it's 2 years, but what are you gaining? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
what are you
Yeah.
gaining from that?
Is there a belief that money is hard? So you've been making it hard. And so just thinking that it could be easy, it just doesn't fit with like what you've believed or what you've learned or what you've experienced.
I think it's a belief that, well, not even a belief, just my experience with it has been hard. And so
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
reality is that it's been hard. And
Yes.
then to see this
Yes.
laid out as
Yes.
so it's relatively simple to see that.
Yes.
And so that
Yes.
is also frustrating. Like
Yeah.
you've been, like walking through quicksand by your own
Yes.
choice, by your own
Okay.
choosing.
Okay. Yes. I'm hearing a lot of self judgment here. Maybe. Okay. So if we could soften this a little, if you can be kind, if you can be kind to Jeanette of every moment in time up until 3 minutes ago, right? Because we like her.
Yeah.
What would be a kinder perspective on how you've come to be in this place?
You're learning how to make your money work for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And why did you end up where you were like making things hard or being hard on yourself? Like, where did you learn that money is hard?
So I don't. So part of me wants to say that I don't know that I've learned money is hard. It's just that it's been my experience,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Which is a learning.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just through my
Yeah.
experience, you
Yeah.
know.
It's been hard.
Yeah. Well, and I will
Yeah.
say it's been hard as a private practice owner. You
Okay.
know,
Yes.
I think
Yes.
it's also discouraging to see like this all this money come into your practice, but so your business is thriving. My
Yes.
business savings looks amazing, but it's like,
Mhm.
okay, on the other end, that's where the disconnect is for me, and
Yes.
that's frustrating as well.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that experience of money having been hard for so many years, it makes sense that it's going to take you a minute to catch up to your new situation, right? Like to all that you've built, which I'm sure has been hard earned, right? To get to where you are, where now you can have a private practice and you can charge like fees that get you paid well, right? Like all of that is decades and decades and decades in the making. So it makes sense that this becoming a possibility in the last like few months, that maybe this would have started to become possible, that you could have the stability and connect with like, okay, I could do a slow and steady thing and my money can serve in these other ways. That's brand new compared to what's happened in your life. That's one piece that I'm thinking about here. The other piece is systems. You've built a system in your business that's working for you, right? You're talking about how your business savings. So it also makes me curious about what are some systems that could be added in at home. So your home is getting the same kind of
Yeah,
a intentionality that your business is getting.
absolutely. And so I don't know if there's a way to like do like a microcosm of profit first with my personal expenses.
For sure.
And a lot of my intentionality with my business has been to like over prepare and over save because of my former CPA, the 20K in debt. I think I told you a little bit about that. And so like making sure I have enough in savings
Mhm.
to cover,
Mhm.
you know, this tax season and whatnot, which I
Yes.
do,
Yes.
which is great. So there's,
Yes.
I
Great.
see how I am able to save and I am able to prepare
Yes.
and I'm able to pull from
Yes.
that. So I
Yes.
see that. I
Yes.
think it's frustrating that it's not translating to my personal life.
Okay. Yes. It hasn't translated yet. Two questions.
Mhm.
One, you said you have lots of tax savings, like so you'll be ready for this year.
Mhm.
Do you think you might have some extra tax
Oh yeah,
money
for
that you
sure.
saved last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've saved
Okay.
way more than what I need.
Well, how much is way more?
I would say over 5K
Okay. Beautiful. So
extra.
let's think about that 5K. What if half of that 5K became your kind of emergency fund, your buffer at home, and half of it went onto your debt?
And so I'm not going to just have anything in my savings then?
Well, you'll be saving for this year's taxes.
I mean, I know it's going to regrow again, but
Yeah,
Lindsay.
yeah, I know. But like what I'm pointing out to you is like, first of all, there's no reason to hold tax money from a previous tax season. Once your taxes are settled out and you know, okay, last year I oversaved by 5 grand. I've already got my quarterlies like locked and loaded and started for this year. That money is not serving you sitting in your business because you're not going to suddenly owe extra next year because you've got a system locked in. You know that you're saving an amount. You have an accountant keeping an eye on things with you. It's not serving you. So what I'm hearing is your business is getting this like super disciplined Jenet who's like, no, 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 we will keep it there. And your home is getting this like tightness and scarcity and like, oh shit, I have to put money on the credit card again. Right. There's a lack of integration there.
Yeah.
So part of it is like disciplined private practice owner, like blossoming money boss, Jeanette over here. She needs to spend time at home too.
Yeah.
It needs to make sure that you spread the wealth, like literally,
Right.
that you're spreading the wealth between your business once you know those funds are available and these personal pieces at home that have like serious impact on your daily, quality of life.
Right.
What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
I mean, that is the goal for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Is there anything in the way of that goal?
I mean, I heard you say like disperse the remainder of the savings. And so like I'm hearing you say like that's the strategy to do.
not just savings, but your tax money that you saved from last year. Yes. So, I mean, in your business, it's also to your benefit to have some operating expense buffer as well, right? Like, we don't want you going down to like nothing. I also want you to have a bit of a buffer in your OPEX so that there's a bit of money for next month or the next couple months. But otherwise, yeah, there's no advantage to you just holding $5,000 of cash in your tax account that you actually know you don't need for last year's taxes, because
Okay.
you will be saving for this year.
Okay. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is true.
Future Jenet has this locked down, right? Like, you have a
Yeah.
system that's working.
Okay.
So if you can see that 5,000 coming from your business, crossing the barrier into home and being dispersed between your credit card and starting to create like an emergency fund, how does that feel?
It feels unnerving a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know
What's
why.
unnerving about it?
It feels
Mhm.
unnerving to like mess up. I'm using the word mess up, and that might not be the appropriate word, but that's what's coming up. Like mess up what I have over here at my business to clean up what's over
Mm-mm.
here. You know.
Okay. I'm going to challenge you. You're not messing up what you've done in your business. Your business has done exactly what it's supposed to do, which it's helped you to save and actually oversave. And now your business's job is to take care of you. Like, you are the beating heart of your business.
Yeah.
You need to be well. And there's no higher purpose that your business could serve than to help you have more ease and less stress at home so you can show up even better and even more present in the business.
Yeah. I'm a little apprehensive, Lindsay, but I'm
I
hearing
hear
it.
it. I hear it. I hear it. I hear it. Yes. Yes. So let's think about action steps coming out of this conversation, because we've covered a good amount of ground. Thinking about your next steps,
hmm
what do you need to do coming out of this conversation to start to put some of these pieces in action?
So, I think the other thing is a part of me, I don't know that I trust myself anymore now.
Mhm.
That's the part of me that's like, I don't want to do anything until like someone actually looks at my finances because like and I see you shaking your head. No.
And now that we have YouTube, people will see me shaking my head. My hair is kind of like bobbing in a funny way when I do it too. No, I mean, I hear that you're hesitant. I want you to own your badassery. It's not a word I use very much, but like, you have built a system in your business that works. It's works. It's working. It's continuing to work, right? So like, I'm not saying like jump right away. I'm saying once your taxes are settled out, your accountant says, there's your tax bill.
Yeah.
You've paid it. You can look back and see, okay, this is how much I put aside for last year. I'm already saving for this year.
Yeah.
Maybe even revisit your percentages. Maybe you could bring it down a
I think
percent
I can
or
bring it
something.
down 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is very
Right.
aggressive.
Because like, you should not be over saving in your business when you are hurting at home.
Right.
That's not integrated. Right.
hmm
We want separation, but we also want you to be okay. So I would like actually challenge you to trust yourself and take action. Right. I think like you need to really settle into your power, because part of what I'm hearing is you're waiting for this accountant to tell you what to do. They can't. They can't tell you what to do, right? Like, they could also make suggestions, right? But like, you're the boss. Like, you know where the money is going to serve you well. You know where things are working. You know where they're not. Nobody can make that work except you, right? So I part of it is I'm challenging you to own the skills that you have developed that I don't think you're really owning yet.
hmm
Right? Because we started, obviously, this is a coaching session, so we're not coming just to talk about everything that's working. But we started by talking about at home, how you feel like you're kind of like failing, falling behind, this debt is growing. Meanwhile, in your business, you have more than the extra debt that you've accumulated sitting in your business in cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
So both of these things are true. Both at home, this strategy has not been working, and in your business, you're kicking butt. You're like a disciplined, like, queen of the universe, right? Like, both of these things can be true.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So if you could trust yourself, what would be your next step coming out of this conversation?
My next step would be to create a 2-year plan, which I mean, we've kind of already done. That feels very safe to do. And then also think about how I can leverage that 5K to set a foundation.
Yes. What do you think about the idea of not using that credit card anymore
Oh, that's fine.
and just
Yeah,
that's good?
I have no problem not using a credit card. 100%.
Great.
If
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to stop using that credit card. Let's even say if you need to start, like, have a credit card for something, use a different credit card. Let's almost like separate out these two bits of debt,
Okay. When you
right?
say that, tell me what you mean.
What I mean is, you have been feeling this defeat because you're not seeing progress happen
Mhm.
on this card.
Yeah.
What I want you to get the experience of is a card that's just going down.
Mhm.
You're just seeing yourself pay it down, pay it down. It's not growing again.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean you're not going to have to use a credit card sometimes,
Yeah.
but you could have a different credit card you use at home. You
I
put your
see.
car payment on it, you pay it off in cash.
Yeah.
You start to develop that habit of paying down that card in cash every month. So it can still be part of how you manage cash,
Yeah.
but it's not a debt that's growing. It's just like another tool you have in your bank, but you pay it off every month. While this credit card with the 9800 is steadily going down. $500 is going on it every month,
Mhm.
and you're seeing it go down, down, down over the next 2 years.
Okay. I think I get it. But tell me why I would need another credit card again?
If you need a credit card to like make online purchases,
Okay.
or yeah, that's all. You might not need it. You might not need it at
Okay.
all. If you
Okay.
have like a Visa debit, you just might not need it. Was that a sigh of relief there?
Well, yeah, because what I don't want to do is create the problem on another credit
Exactly.
card.
If you can get away with not having another card, I would say do that. Do that, because what you are going to be doing is keeping more money in your bank account. You're going to be starting to build a cash buffer in like a savings account, which means that when the car repair comes up, you're just going to pay in cash.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that that is beautiful. If you can just, your credit card is just going to go down. There's going to be no other credit card. You're going to be dealing in cash in the future. Okay. Okay. So that's the next step. Stop using the credit card. So what I have here is create your 2-year debt repayment plan, which could be just like locking in the numbers that we just looked at or playing with them a little bit on a calculator. Leverage that $5,000 to set your foundation at home. Stop using that credit card and just start paying with cash at home.
Absolutely.
So, Jeanette, what are you taking away from our conversation today?
That's, that aggressiveness, that professionistic aggressiveness is it no longer serves is hasn't served me in a while in other areas of my life, and I've come to terms with that. But I think this is probably one of the last places where I was holding on to it.
Yeah, and part of me wonders, like from kind of like a parts of self perspective, where this is a part that's trying to take care of you. How can you thank that part for what it's been trying to do for you? Because that part cares about you, right? But you're going to start going with a different strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you notice when you think about that?
Tearful, you know,
Yeah.
I get it. It's more about trying to keep myself safe and be proactive, but it's not working. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 And you have some new strategies that you can try now.
absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Jeanette, thanks for coming on the podcast.
This has been great. I appreciate it.
At the beginning of the podcast today, Jeanette mentioned this piece about grace and giving herself grace. And she started by actually talking about grace, about needing help and like more support with her finances, having to give herself grace for that, because as a recovering perfectionist, she wants to be able to do everything herself. But now that I'm reflecting back on our conversation, I think the grace that could really serve her and all of us as we're managing our finances is more of that grace around your goals and debt and setting a plan that gives you breathing room, especially as a solo earner, a solo parent. There's so much that Jeanette's money needs to do for her. And this aggressive strategy that she set, which might work very well for some folks in certain situations, was not working for her. So I think a lot of the grace that's actually called for when we are doing something really difficult that's not working is the grace around letting ourselves make it easier, not make it painful, make a plan that's actually doable so that we can be paying down that debt, but still also taking care of our life. And this is something we've talked about before on the podcast. This episode also reminds me of the conversation that I had with Erin Davis earlier. And in both these cases, we're also talking about parents, right? Like people with young kids. And that's such a specific period of life. There's definitely going to be times in your life where a more aggressive debt repayment strategy can make sense. When you're in your 20s, when you're partnered with no kids, or when you're single, or if you're not planning to have kids and that's not part of the equation, or if you're older and you're ready to like really power up your savings, there can definitely be times that we have the bandwidth and the ability to be more aggressive and be very single-minded about our finances if that's something that feels helpful to you. And there's also times when we can't. And when we do, as Jenet was experiencing, it just causes pain. And it causes that experience of failing, right? Because it's like she's trying to pay down her debt so aggressively, but there's no cash. So then she's having to put money back on debt. And even though, as I mentioned, logically, it still means that she's paying less interest by doing that, the experience is that she's losing, right? And so what we're setting her up for now is an experience of winning, where she's going to be able to actually see that debt disappear and see herself saving money at the same time. The cash flow might actually look very similar to how money is being spent in some ways, but her experience of it is going to be so much more positive as she sees that credit card debt shrinking and that emergency fund, that buffer at home, growing. I think that's going to be a very different felt and lived experience for her. And as she mentioned, something we've had to talk about a couple times, which is true for all of us. We all have things that we need to revisit a few times until it shifts and it sinks in. So I'm very excited for Jenet implementing this new strategy around her debt. And I'm very grateful for her coming on the podcast today. You can follow me on Instagram at Money, Nuts, and Bolts. And if you're enjoying the podcast, leaving a review on Apple Podcast is super helpful for us. Just you can share what episodes you've been enjoying, what you really appreciate about the podcast, or any big takeaways you've had from the podcast. That is the best way for other therapists and health practitioners to find us and be part of these conversations. Thanks for listening today.